here. Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Sasma. I have been teaching math in one way or another for 31 years now, 24 of which have been here. In order for me to keep a roll for the attendance, I'm going to send this around to start with. A little later on, by the end of next week, I'll have a seating chart. It'll make this much faster. I won't be wasting paper. Please put your initials next to your name. If you have a preference on a nickname or something like that, please write it down. Please only write next to your own name. And we'll go from there. The standard information you need to know about me. My office is across the hall in Lynch in the LECOM labeled building. Enter, go to the left, and I'm down the hall in a little small cul-de-sac off the side. My office phone number that will leave a message for me if I'm not physically in, but all of my office hours are in the Enrichment Center, which is over in Reeves. If you enter from the quad, go all the way to the back like you're going to IT and go to the room immediately right, the Mathematics Enrichment Center, you'll find me there. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that's immediately after this class. Tuesday in the afternoon, Tuesday in the morning, Thursday in the morning, and in the afternoon. If none of those work, we'll set something up. I do Zoom meetings, I do all sorts of other things. There is a Google Meet for all of these office hours. If you cannot physically make it over there, find a quiet spot, send me an email, tell me you want to join that way, and I'll start it up. Calc 1 is going to cover mostly chapters 2 through 6 in the 9th edition of Stewart's Calculus. We've been using Stewart since 4th edition. So we've been on this book for quite some time. I really do like it. I think it's one of the standards. This textbook is part of the book bundle. If you've opted out, you do need a copy. I guarantee you're going to want this book in front of you. I'm going to make frequent reference to it. We're going to have assignments from it, but you should get a copy delivered if you took part of the book bundle. There's access to digital materials in Canvas. If you got a physical copy, that's fine. This course is designed for both the math major and the liberal arts curriculum. If you are a math major and actuary science major, you're part of this program. You'll be able to use some of these things by the end of this course. If you're taking this as a liberal arts curriculum course, then you will be expected to be able to do some of these things by the end of this course. How? Well, here are the things we're going to do in this course. And here's where they attach to all of these objectives. And quite literally, all 6 of these liberal arts objectives are part of what we do everywhere in this course. A bunch of this is boilerplate policy. Attendance, please come to class. I'm taking attendance. The registrar has asked me to. Personally, it's not my business if you choose to come to class or not. But in the entire time I've been teaching, I have had one student who never came to class who passed. I had him for several successive classes. Grades kept going down until he eventually didn't pass, but he showed up for the first day and then for the exams. I don't recommend it. But if you're going to miss for an excused reason, I can put that into Canvas. If you're just going to be absent, just send me an email, let me know. If you've got a problem, that's fine. You don't have to be here. I can't force you to be here. I really think it's to your benefit to be here. I will say that now that I can keep track of excused and unexcused absences in Canvas, I changed this sentence. I can mark an excused version. It's helpful. I have correlative evidence that coming to class that attendance is positively correlated to grades. The more absences you have, the lower your grade gets overall. That's just a trend. It's not a guarantee. Technology. I want you to use Graph and Calculate for this course. If you've used Desmos or Chrome's Grapher or a bunch of other apps, those are great. They're all on the internet. This isn't. And that means that this is what you'll be allowed to use during the exams. Specifically because it's not on the internet. You don't have to have a TI, you can have a Casio, you can have a Hewlett Packard, I don't care. You just need to know how it works. If it says CAS on it, that is a computer algebra system. You can't use that. If you've got a TI-92, you've already paid for, we should talk about that because that again, That's a computer. It's completely programmable. It will do calculus just like Desmos does, just like Wolfram Alpha does. Please don't use those in the class. There are lots of apps that are useful and helpful, and I want you to use them to gain the insight to be able to do these problems, solve these techniques, and to understand what's going on. To that end, there's a giant list of assigned problems on our Canvas page. Right here, it's an Excel sheet, assigned homework XLS, shows you exactly what problems out of each section I want you to do. And under our assignments, every single section has a due date. You'll come into class, right at the beginning of class, I'll ask you to pass your homework over, I'll collect it, I'll bring it home on physical pieces of paper. I know that's horrid. How dare I kill trees? I recycle a lot, it works. But this is the best tool for getting what's on the screen and on the page in front of you into your head. As much as I hate to say it, there's something to proprioceptive input, to the physicality of doing things. I don't know if you saw me at the beginning of class with this, sitting here fooling around with my yo-yo, but this is something you can't do by watching me. You can get ideas on what to do by watching people, but you can't do it yourself just by watching. How long do you think it took me to learn how to do that? And they all start the same way. Just put your finger, throw it down, put your finger in the way. That's it. How long? I've been doing calculus for 30 some odd years, almost 40 years. I'm going to make this look easy. It's not. You're on a sports team, right? Which one? You out there practicing? You can't just watch films and learn how to do this stuff, right? I'm going to say the same thing about math. This is the tool. So, on paper, homework to be submitted. If you have questions, there are tutors over in the Enrichment Center. I already talked about my office hours. There are dozens of resources, some of which are in the links section on our Canvas page. Again, under the main page, modules down here, whole bunch of web links that you can connect to for other things on calculus. Lots of other options. If you're going to miss a day when assignments are due, then you should read this document, Scanning Homework. There are dozens of apps that act as PDF scanners. I have linked the one I use in that document. It's available for Android and iOS. You can use the Notes app on a phone. Just scan it in and email it to me. But if you're going to be here physically, give me the paper. If you've used your iPad or your Surface Pro to write your homework, dump it to the printer and physically give it to me. Back to Zoom. Every problem is graded on a 5-point scale. Then they'll be percentaged out of the assignment, uploaded. The lowest homework grade will be dropped, the lowest single section. I will get tutors. Usually tutoring starts the end of this week, beginning of next week. As soon as I get one, tutoring is done through the Penji app. You can get instructions, this URL, that's the link to the Math Enrichment Center. There's also an announcement on our course that takes you to that same information. Your submitted assignments are my first impression of what you are capable of as a person in mathematics. Just in mathematics. I don't know anything else about you necessarily. Please, if you use a spiral notebook, trim the fuzzy edges off, connect your pages or put your name on each one so I know which pages go together. I have done such stupid things as drop the entire pile of assignments and had to piece stuff back together. My fault, but I'd still not have to spend time homework, handwriting matching on homework. There are 4 scheduled exams, 3 in semester and a comprehensive final. Our course schedule, again, shows you everything we're going to cover on every day. It showed you when that first exam is. There it is, Monday the 22nd. Please notice, sitting here on Thursdays, frequently, sometimes on Fridays, are question and answer days. That's when it's in your court. You can ask me any question you want about any of the material, whether you're turning it in or not. Notice that our first set of assignments are due on the 5th. Question and answer day is the 4th. So if you've already worked on the assignments, you can come in and go, I was having problems on number 13. What am I supposed to do? And we go over it. Maybe not do that exact problem, maybe we'll do one like it, but we'll discuss it. Here, the homework will be due here. The keys will go up to our Canvas page immediately after I collect them. And then you'll have the chance to get them back on Monday. You'll have the answers already. You'll be able to take the exam well prepared. Unfortunately, I don't set the final exam schedule. Bring extra coffee. Again, if you're going to miss something, if you're going to be out for an exam, I want you to take a makeup. I want you to do it in advance. Ideally, if you're going to miss that Monday the 22nd, let me know as soon as possible. We'll figure out when you can take the exam and how we can make that work. It is possible that you didn't know you were going to be absent. You're driving up Route 30 and you blow a tire. Awesome. Does anybody in this room not have a cell phone? I didn't think so. That's when you call me and leave a message there that is immediately converted by voice into an email. It emails me the recording of the message you're leaving, and it's timestamped. So I know you're not going to be here. And I don't panic when I'm sitting in the room going, I don't like that. But I have a message. Oh, okay, I know why you're not here. And then we can work on what's going on. It is possible without any documentation. See, you're emailing me because you're not going to be here. You take a picture of the flat tire, email me that too. If you miss an exam, I can double the next one. However, down here's the grading scale, distribution menu. Please notice, each exam in the 3 in-semester exams is 17% of your grade. If you decide, I don't want to take exam 1, I want to double exam 2. That 1-hour class is 1/3 of your grade. That's a lot of weight for 1 hour's work. Don't do that to yourself. If at all possible, please take all the exams. Please make sure you are as spreading out your grade, as many bites at the apple as you can. I think that's a better choice. During the exam, the only technology you'll be allowed to access is this. If you're wearing a smart device, I'm terribly sorry, you'll have to take it off during the exam. If you're using it as a heart rate monitor, I guarantee you your heart rate's elevated during the exam. Don't worry about it. A grading scale. Your grades on Canvas almost always match the grades in my Excel spreadsheet to within about 1/100%. I throw everything into the Canvas gradebook. I throw the same thing in the Excel spreadsheet. If you earned an 81%, you're guaranteed to be minus right there. 81%. It's possible there might be a curve in this course. I have no idea. I won't know until after the final exam. So nothing individually is graded. None of the individual assignments are graded with a curve. Only the final course grades. If I look at the grades and say, hey, you know, the grades in the exams went bang, bang, boom. All right, what happened in exam 3? What did I screw up? And then we fix that. Almost all the rest of this is boilerplate policy and notes. This class is synchronous face-to-face. You should be here to get the most out of this course. I'm recording this. Those recordings will be on YouTube. I am scanning anything I write under this camera. will get scanned and uploaded to our Canvas page. The module at the bottom of that front page says class scans. We scan entitled by date. Again, if you're out for an athletic event, for a trip, whatever it is, you can go back and watch the scan. You can read the notes that I wrote. I would like a note taker for this course. If you have decent note-taking ability, would like to volunteer to be a note taker, I would be happy to discuss that with you. Grab me at the end of class. I do think I'm going to need one. What usually happens is someone gets accommodations or has an injury and is going to be out. They request notes. I have somebody lined up now to start with. It'll be easier in turn. You scan your notes and email them to the student services office. I can discuss what needs to happen at the end of class. This is a large room. I see a bunch of bags on the floor. Please make sure you've tucked everything in. Clear the aisleways. Your emergency exit, should you need it, is directly across the hall. Stairway out, down, across the street. We reconvene in front of the Child Development Center in case of an emergency exit. You'll get some starfish notifications several points throughout the semester. Please make sure you've connected to your Seton Hill email. If you have another email account, that's fine. You can set up forwarding. But when I send something through Canvas, it automatically defaults to your Seton Hill email. That way I don't have to remember who countrybutterfly25@yahoo.com is. Your best bet to contact me is email. I tend to answer fairly quickly. Give me at least 24 hours if it's a big problem, but I'm not available overnight. I'm here way too early. I go exercise before I come to class. So 9:30 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. you're unlikely to get a response. I get some emails at 2 o'clock in the morning from 7. No, I'm asleep, trust me. But again, there's a little note on email etiquette on the Canvas page that I stole from Dr. Laurie. I think it's worth reading. You've got the schedule. You know what we're doing on every day. There may be an extra credit problem on an exam or a homework. There will not be an extra credit assignment in this course. If you come to me in December and go, what can I do to bring my grade up? I'm going to ask if you can get to 88 miles an hour in the lorry. Or if you happen to have a police box. If you don't own a time machine, there's nothing you can do in December. Start now. During the lecture, some of you will get what I'm saying faster than others. Either try to sleep with your eyes open, or just nod along quietly. Flip open your computer and read something interesting with the volume turned way, way down. Try not to distract others from the learning environment. If somebody's looking at me further behind you, like, that's why I'm going over it again. Like I said earlier, please make sure you've got a valid email address in the Griffin Gate Canvas system. If you set up forwarding, that's fine. It defaults to your school address, which you should check daily. Please make sure your cell phones are on silent or vibrate. If it goes off during class audibly, I will answer it. I will ask if it's an emergency. Well, I'm going to give you the phone, then you get out. If it's not, I'm going to say, we're in class, we'll call you back. Like, about 3 years ago, I said that, and somebody's phone rang. If you are texting in the midst of class, if your lap is glowing, I'm worried that you're getting radiation in places you shouldn't. You're using what I'm only asking for 50 minutes at a time, people. The FOMO is real. I understand that. But in 1 hour, you're not going to miss the entire universe. University is a tobacco-free zone. I can't smoke in this room. You can't smoke in this room. Nobody should be using chewing tobacco or other dip products in this room. If you're using a spittoon, coffee cup, and that tips over, this carpet has to get ripped up. And it stinks to high hell and back. Please don't. A Title IX statement. I am a mandatory reporter. If I observe or am told information about discriminatory harassment or sexual harassment or assault or anything like that, I am required to report it to the Title IX office. You don't have to tell me anything. You don't have to let this stop you from telling me something, but I am required to report. If you wish to speak to somebody who is not a required reporter, here are some contact numbers and contact information for places for harassment The counseling center, campus ministry, they are exempt from the mandatory reporting comments. As I said earlier, student services will contact me if you have accommodations. We should have a discussion on how we're going to meet those accommodations during this class. Regardless of why, you don't have to tell me why, but I should get a letter from the accommodate system that says so-and-so is legally accommodated to these things. I'm required to discuss with you how to meet them, like the note taker or written copies of instructions or preferential seating or whatever it is. But that has to go through the Office of Disability Services upstairs. That's on 5th Admin at that end of the building. If you need to talk to them, get paperwork processed, whatever it is, they're the only ones who can give me the legal coverage to allow you the accommodations. Please make sure you do that by the end of next week. We have it far enough in advance of the exam that if extended testing time or handwriting accommodation is part of your accommodation, we can make that work. Academic engagement. I talk, you listen, right? You talk, I listen. That's a conversation. That's not active learning. So there'll be a bunch of dead time where I'm not saying anything because you all are working on something that we're going to then discuss right up here. So I'll put a problem up and say, how do I do this? Wait, don't answer right away. Start to write down what you think, and then we'll go through. And that's why I do all scan my notes so that I can continue to have that conversation with you written. I don't have anything pre-written for you. That's why I don't have slides at the moment. Because if I have slides, then I only have one approach. And maybe you pick a different way to do something than I do. I want to explore what you've done. So I'll write the problem down on a blank sheet of paper, and we'll start from there. But that means the expectation is that there's a bunch of work outside for every hour we spend in class. This class meets 4 hours a week. That means somewhere between 4 and 8 more hours out there. What's that entail? What are you doing for those 4 or 8 hours? Well, that depends on you. A lot of people rewrite their notes because they're trying to keep up with a lot of what's going on in class, and it's fairly sloppy. My handwriting, by the way, sucks. So I use a fountain pen because it slows me down and makes my handwriting a little bit neater. And you'll see that a little. But I used to take my notes in class and go back to my dorm room and rewrite them. And I have notebooks that unfortunately are older than you that show you that I've rewritten notes from my graduate courses, my undergraduate courses that I still refer to over 30 years later because I can read them, not just the textbook that I may or may not have, but I have all of the additional explanation I wrote in. A lot of people will re-listen to the lecture, go back and go, I didn't get what he wrote here. I left myself a big blank spot. Now I need to fill that in. That's fine. This includes time spent working on homework. That's okay. That also includes, I'm going to go over to the enrichment center and sit in the math tutoring center with 3 of my friends from this room, and we're going to work on it together. It's a great idea. Please make sure that you are appropriately engaged with the material of this course. It's not just butt in the seat time. It's thinking time. And in a very real sense, that's more important. Being here is helpful. But if you're sitting here tuned out, you're not here. If you're sitting in your dorm room or in the lounge for the athletics group upstairs or over in Haiti, whatever, cranking away on this stuff, that's engaged. That's what I'm after. Again, if you're going to be working in a sport, theater production, recital, conference, etc., if you're going to be working during this class outside of the classroom, let me know. We'll figure out how to get what I'm doing to you. Again, that's why I would like a note taker. That's why I post my stuff. That's why I do these recordings. That you have a chance, even if you're physically not here, to get the information. My definition of academic honesty is simple. Don't cheat. It's a stupid sentence. What's cheating? I know for a fact this book has been out for about 3 years. Every single problem in this textbook has a complete solution available on you. You can find this on Chegg. You can find this just by Googling. You start typing the problem, it'll auto-complete it for you. And it'll give you the answer. Usually they're right. If you ask ChatGPT, I won't go that far. Usually that one's wrong. But if you simply Google the problem, you'll find the answer. That's a problem. If you spend your time looking at the solution and writing it down to hand in to me, how much of that went through your brain? Then you'll get to the exam with no technology, and what are you going to do? I want you to work together on the homework. Working together doesn't mean you do problem 1, you do problem 2, you do problem 3, and everybody switch. It means you do problem 1 and you two talk with her about it. You do problem 3 and you two talk with her about it. You don't just each individually and then shift the papers around. You all spend your time engaged with all the problems. Working together actually helps. Because if I don't understand something and you do, then you'll explain it to me and that'll clarify your understanding of it even more, because I'll be asking the dumb question that you don't think, oh, I hadn't thought of that. What about that? And maybe we're both wrong, or we're both right in different pieces of it. But that's the sanctioned collaboration part, as opposed to non-sanctioned collaboration. I expect you to do as much of your own work as possible. That's why the exams are on paper in this room, face to face, so I can see you writing stuff down. And I know you're doing your work. What questions do you have for me about the policies of this course? It's all perfectly clear. You understand everything we're doing. Yes. It's strictly the homework and the exams. When I did do in-class quizzes, I started to do those with the clickers back when clickers had just come out, and it was a drastic failure. And I even said, I'm going to not even grade homework. I'm only going to grade quizzes that semester. So I gave all the homework keys. The learning management system tells me how often a file was accessed. All of the homework was available on day 1 of the semester. By the time we got to the first quiz, do you know how many people had looked at any given homework assignment? Out of class of 30, I'd had 2 looks. I don't even know if they were 2 different people. I had 2 looks at a homework key. People, I put it up there so you can use it, and nobody did. So I found it easier to simply do homework. Other questions? Yes, ma'am. Yes, you can ask me anything. You can ask me specific homework questions. You can ask me general concepts, whatever you want to talk about. Ideally, I'd like it to be related to class, or whatever you want to talk about. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Not just completion, accuracy as well. That's why it's only a 5-point scale. It's like, okay, you made a mistake. Is it a big mistake? Is it a little mistake? All right, that's 1 point, maybe 2 points. It's not. Most of it is you did attempt to do these problems and you got closer to the right answer. Accuracy is a big part of that, but I'm not going to lose my mind over a misplaced decimal. Once I grade the homework, I will post a full key, typed, complete solutions, so that you have them, again, to our Canvas page. Down here, this module will populate with, excuse me, the homework keys that I've typed. As you can see, right now, There's a review sheet for the first exam already up. And down here is where all those scans will go of any notes that I physically write in class. Questions? Yes, you submit them, I grade them, and then immediately after I finish the grading, your grades go into the Canvas gradebook and the keys go up on that module. Oh, you can check them all you want, I'm just not providing grade. I will happily discuss why things came off. You're like, I'm not sure what I did wrong. I read your key, but I think this is still a valid solution. I will award points back, but I don't give you a second opportunity at the home. That's why I have the question and answer days and the office hours, so you can try and get those as right as possible in between. That's my formative assessment. Yes, ma'am. It will be on the day after the question and answer period at the beginning of class. So if you check the assignments link, or if you go to Canvas and you open up your calendar here, come on, there we go. You can see every assignment for every class. If it's been assigned a due date, it's up here on the calendar. So if you open up that calendar tab, here are our first 3 assignments. This class is coded red in my calendar. You can change the color in yours. These are my other classes, but you don't care about those. And again, whatever it is shows up. So here's our exam on the 22nd. Homework due here. I graded it over the weekend. I posted the keys. There's the exam. So due dates are available to you at this point. Questions? Okay. According to the schedule, Monday's today, overview and review. Review, appendices B, C, and D. Means I should do stuff. All right, everybody get your notebooks out, your pencils out. We're going to start. Here we go. I do expect Appendix B, C, and D to be familiar material. Stuff you've seen in classes before this. So Appendix B starts with our framework for algebra. Coordinate geometry and lines. Believe it or not, algebra is a recent invention. Fairly recent. The word itself, algebra, comes from an Arabic word, al-yabar, which is the shortened version of a title of a book. Al-yabar et al-muqabala, on the methods of completion and reduction, by an Arabic mathematician by the name of Al-Khwarizmi. Al-Khwarizmi. I can never, I'm going to screw this guy's name up all the time. As a matter of fact, his name is so messed up in English, Al-Khwarizm became algorithm, became algorithm. An algorithm is a method for doing something, because his title of the book was The Method of Completion and Reduction. So algebra is algorithms. It's shortcuts for geometry. The reason we name things in algebra what we call them is because they're doing the same thing as geometric procedures. So all of the things that we do are really based in geometry. So when algebra was developed, the link to geometry was fairly tenuous, and it took a long time until mathematicians like René Descartes came along and said, when I describe a relationship between two sets of numbers, I'm really creating a pair of number lines, an ordinate and an abscissa. I'll never use those words again. An x-axis and a y-axis, it doesn't matter what letters we call them. And I can describe the relationship between these two sets of numbers by crossing those two and measuring from the crossing point, the origin, O. And because most people are right-handed, off to the right will be positive, and we'll measure numbers this way. Up will be positive. We'll measure numbers to the left as negative, to down as negative. Well, this divides the space that is the board up here into 4 pieces called quadrants. Quadrant 1, where everything is positive. And then we go counterclockwise. I promise there are reasons for that. We'll get to them later. From here, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. And so up here, we describe a point by measuring its distance from the origin and listing in order the ordinate, the abscissa, so in our case, our point is 3, 1. You can put points anywhere. They don't have to be nice numbers. I just happen to have rigged this one. They can be ugly numbers. They can be decimals. They can be fractions. They can be radicals. They can be irrational numbers. It doesn't matter. We're just measuring the distances. So here's a point Q. What are the coordinates Q? I'm sorry? -1, -2. 1 unit left, 2 units down. As a matter of fact, every point in quadrant 3 will have both of its coordinates reading as negative numbers. Every point in quadrant 1 will have both of its coordinates reading as positive numbers. In quadrant 2, our x is negative, but our y is positive. And in quadrant 4, the reverse, our x is positive and our y is negative. Again, shortcuts to geometry. How far is it from P to Q? The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, because we are on a flat surface. If we're on a curved surface, that changes everything. But Euclid, when he wrote his geometry book, summarizing a bunch of other geometric developments, used flat surfaces. So the distance from P to Q is measured with the straight line there. And we write a function d of P comma Q, the distance. Some textbooks write the absolute value, P1, P2. Sometimes with a little geometry symbol with a dot with a dot over each letter with a line in between it, the distance of the segment constructed. How do I find that distance? Yes, there's some formula about the square root of the sum of coordinate difference. Why? Aha. What I've really got is a right triangle. If I draw horizontally from Q, vertically from P, I create a right triangle here. And then my buddy Pythagoras tells me that the square root of the hypotenuse squared would be the distance from P to Q. And I pull out Pythagoras. If I was dealing with a right triangle, I'd write a squared plus b squared is c squared, right? Only I haven't labeled anything as a and b and c over there. So the distance across this horizontal here, that's a change in x. The x value from P minus the x value from Q. I'm going to square that. So it doesn't matter which one is which, because if I reverse those, I get a negative. What happens when you square a negative? It becomes positive. Same thing with the y's. The vertical distance on the side there, that's the change in the y value. Square that. Okay, so a squared plus b squared would be the hypotenuse squared. If I want the hypotenuse itself, I take the square root. The square root of the difference in coordinates squared. By the way, this is not limited to 2 dimensions. You want to do this in 3D? Works the same way. You just have more coordinates. You have x and y and z. That's fine. So in our case, with our coordinate values, what's the distance? Aha! I was sneaky, rigged this sucker. Change in x, 3 minus negative 1. Change in y, 1 minus negative 2. That's 4 squared, 3 squared. Wait a minute. There's a right triangle with those numbers in it. A 3, 4, 5 right triangle. But 16 and 9 is 25. Square root of 25 is 5. So in spite of the fact that I am a horrible, absolutely horrible sketch artist, that's nowhere near the scale, we know the value exactly. Questions? I have 2 points PQ. I've drawn the segment in between those two. If I extend that, I get a line. In geometry class, I remember they wrote a symbol for a segment, right? But they also wrote a symbol for a line. That line is a relationship between all of the points in the segment and that extend in either direction, continuing infinitely to the left and to the right. An algebra person would then ask, what's the relationship? If there's a point here on our line, what's the relationship between that point and the points P and Q? So now I want to quantify the line. I'm sorry, somebody started to say something I was talking over. How do I figure out an equation, a relationship between that blue point xy and P and Q? What is that? Aha. Well, that's a great name for something. Now I need to know what those things are. So what's the slope? Somebody said it? Rise over run. Interestingly enough, in Egyptian mathematics, the first time we actually see somebody use slope, they use run over rise. You know why? Because if you're measuring the slope of something, instead of putting it along that something, which may not be smooth, you stick it out from that something. And that reverses the two numbers. It's called seked in the Babylonian texts that we have recovered. So, slope, rise over run. Well, wait a minute. Rise and run, those go with that little triangle we drew, right? So the y, rise, change in y, run, change in x. Change. I'm going to steal from my chemistry faculty, and I'm going to use a capital delta to mean change in. So my run, change in x, my rise, change in y, their ratio will be my slope, which means I know the slope for the line we are talking about. Because we have both those numbers. What's my rise? Which one's which? Aha. Rise is changing y. That was 3. Run is changing x. That was 4. So for my example, I get 3/4. Intercept. Before I get to intercept, let me think about this for just a second. A line with a known slope, 3/4, right? Could be here, could be down here, could be way up there. All I know is this angle. The intercept is point that nails down exactly where this line should be. What are we intercepting? Aha, y-axis. So the intercept tells me I'm going to cross the axis at 0b. There's just one problem. I don't know what that number is. I need to find it. I can take either the point P or the point Q with my known slope and the coordinates x and y for that point. The only thing that won't be known in that equation is the point B, the value of B. So if I take the point P, which I'll choose because it's got positive numbers, and I put that into my equation that we've just created with this value of n for our slope, I can now figure out what the value of B is. And now I've got an exact equation for my line. Does this make sense with the picture we have? A y-intercept being negative means it should be below the x-axis. It should be a little bit less than 1. It is a little bit lower than -1. Perfect. Lines up exactly where I want it. Okay. More on lines in the other two sections in our review. at our next class because it is now 10 o'clock and we are officially out of time. If you came in late, somewhere in the back there should be my sign-in sheet with people's initials on it. Please make sure you've signed it. I do have a request, again, for a note taker. If you want to come talk to me about that, please do. If you've already sent accommodations letters, I've received one. I'd like to talk about the accommodations. Please hang out here. I will be in the Enrichment Center in 20 minutes. I will see you all then. Have a wonderful rest of your day.